Hello and welcome to Beyond Games, the YouTube channel all about what's next for gaming. I'm John Jordan. So the news we're looking at today is Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick is allergic to buzzwords. In Beyond Games, we spend a lot of time talking about buzzwords, things like particularly metaverse, a few other buzzwords we like, and the CEO of Take-Two, obviously one of the really big US gaming companies, best known for GTA, if you need to point that out, and other pretty enormous games. Strauss Zelnick is not interested in these. So it's easy for us to say Strauss is wrong, which is our first kind of knee-jerk reaction. It is important to think, he's running a $20 billion gaming company, very successful over the last decade, and also say I think there is some truth in what he's saying. He's saying he's allergic to buzzwords. So he was talking in a earnings call. So every 3 months, these public companies, have to talk about their revenues, and then they talk to analysts. So this was the context of what he's talking about. So particularly he said the buzzwords he didn't like or was allergic to were metaverse, special purpose acquisition companies, SPACs. That's a way of floating your company on a stock exchange without IPOing, and cryptocurrencies. So these are the three things he doesn't like. And here's the context. I'm always allergic to buzzwords. The buzzwords of VR didn't get the industry too far. AR hasn't improved matters. 3D hasn't done much for us. What moves the dial in our business is amazing creativity, great characters, stories, graphics, gameplay. So this is kind of the context. And who would disagree with the thing that moves the dial in our industry is these things. Well, actually, I would sort of disagree, but I would disagree generally, and I can understand why the CEO of Take-Two would say these things. So if you think about Take-Two as a business, it is basically a console PC company. It has a bit of mobile. It has bought some mobile companies. Social Point being kind of the one of the big deals it's done. It's not done a lot of mobile, really. The biggest thing that's happened to the games industry over the last 10 years has been the rise of free-to-play mobile games. Take-Two hasn't got involved in that hardly at all. So if I'm the CEO of Take-Two, the thing that moves the dial in his business are these things. That's how he makes his money. In the games business, I would disagree, because what's happened in the games business is free-to-play mobile has come along and doubled the size of the games industry. But the companies that have done well out of that have been Tencent, Zynga, NetEase. These are the big players. King. Take-Two has not been a big player in this space. I think where we have to agree is buzzwords. I guess he means overhyped. So VR, is VR interesting? VR is certainly interesting. Has VR driven billions of dollars of revenue to game publishers? No, it hasn't. It's been funded by people like Facebook and to a degree Google and these other tech companies. Similarly with AR, does everyone think AR is going to be big at some point? I think most people do, but at the moment there's not been the apart from maybe Pokemon Go, you could argue, but that's more of a location-based game to a degree. I don't think the AR thing is that important, although you could argue differently. These technologies are important, but I guess he's saying they're overbuzzed. So let's go back to these other ones up here. So metaverse. So metaverse is sort of funny. No one really knows what metaverse means. Lots of people think they have a sort of definition of it. I don't worry too much about it, but I think the idea is people will come together in online kind of experiences and stay there for long periods of time and do the sort of things they are doing in real life, not necessarily play games. The SPAC thing is just kind of financial. So a SPAC is a way of floating on a stock exchange without going through a formal IPO. It's just a financial kind of maneuver, really. Most people are not particularly interested in SPACs, but SPACs they're not a buzzword. SPACs are just a way of going on a stock exchange. I mean, they're kind of irrelevant. Cryptocurrencies he doesn't like. Well, I kind of disagree with that, but that's because I'm kind of into blockchain. And I do personally think blockchain will be a big disruption for the games industry, but it won't fundamentally change the way games are made, but it will definitely change the business models of games. So I think in time, will Take-Two be involved in metaverses and cryptocurrencies? Well, yeah, I think they will be, because I think all games companies will be dealing with this. Quite what a metaverse is, who knows? You could argue at the moment you know, is GTA Online a metaverse? You could argue that. I don't think it's a very strong argument because at the moment it's very much a game. And you could argue, I suppose, you know, is Fortnite a metaverse? Well, I think Fortnite is a bit more of a metaverse than GTA Online because it has these sort of, you know, the game events, these kind of music events, kind of famously, and it has this more sort of, although it's very game-like, it has this. It's not sort of specific game actions happening in there. I guess that's kind of where metaverse, for me at least, becomes different to a big game that lots of people play online. Metaverse is something that's slightly more amorphous, I suppose. But there's no reason that GTA couldn't be a GTA metaverse world. Whether we've exactly got it at the moment, I guess would be the argument. So I don't know. I think actually, I think Strauss is a very astute businessman. If you read what he says in interviews, certainly around the financial side of things, he is very focused on his business, which is what a CEO needs to be. He's not a visionary for the whole games industry. He's a businessman running his business. And I definitely think at the moment, if I was the CEO of Take-Two, I probably wouldn't be spending too much time worrying about metaverses, certainly not SPACs, and maybe not even blockchains. I can see why that wouldn't really be on his day-to-day agenda. But I do think over time, even Take-Two will have to deal with these things. And it's always the case as these new kind of sectors happen. Some companies, normally small companies, get involved first. They prove the industry out. Happened with obviously kind of Supercell, I guess the best example in mobile. King as well in mobile. Some of the companies out of Japan, Gung Ho. They were not big companies until they had these big hits in mobile games, and then that kind of forced the industry to take mobile seriously. The same thing will happen. It won't be Take-Two, won't be driving this technological advance, but they will have to deal with it. It's interesting here. They say, you know, he does actually sort of say about metaverse. I think what the metaverse implies is what we already have with GTA Online and Red Dead Online. So it's kind of he actually has a view of the metaverse which is actually quite limited. He thinks metaverses are just online games, persistent online games. Would we want to do conference calls in game worlds? Probably not. Well, why not? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to do a conference call in GTA? It'd be a different sort of conference call. It'd be quite cool, really, wouldn't it? I can kind of see why he's saying this, but I kind of think he's correct to say that for his company. But I think change might happen a bit quicker than we think. Again, the metaverse thing is all about exactly what your definitions are, and it's interesting. He sees the metaverse as very game-centric rather than experiential, I suppose. Anyway, that was all we have for today. Thanks for watching. This is Beyond Games, the YouTube channel thinking about what's next for games. Hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe, and see you again soon.